Liking this video will help this channel to grow. So please go ahead and give this video a like. Continuing with our lessons on inverse function, we'll look at rearranging formula, which is a prerequisite skill that you will need for concluding this lesson when we explore section 4, which will be on inverse functions. By now, I'm hoping that you've grasped the earlier sections of this lesson where we covered introduction to functions, manipulating functions, including numeric and algebraic composite functions. Now, let's start by looking at what is meant by the subject of a formula. A formula is a fact or rule written with mathematical symbols. It usually connects two or more quantities with an equal sign. Beautiful. And I'm sure you know lots of formula, because in mathematics, particularly when we're working out area, volume of shapes, we use lots of formulae. So I've just put a list here. Formula of 2D shapes, we know about the square, it's s squared. Rectangle, it's the base times the height. The parallelogram, also base times height. The trapezoid, a plus b divided by 2 times the height. A triangle, which is a right angle triangle, half the base times the height, and for the circle it's pi r squared. So you guys know lots of formula. So now we're going to talk about rearranging formula and what we talk about what we mean when we talk about the subject of a formula. So the subject of the formula is the variable that is being worked out. It can be recognized by a letter on its own on one side of the equal sign. So once I see a letter on its own on one side of an equal sign, I know this is my subject. So for example, the formula for the area of a rectangle is a equal the base times the height. We can see here that the a is on its own. So the area, or the letter a here, is the subject of this formula. It is what we are focused on. Brilliant. Now let's talk about rearranging formula. So in order to change the subject of a formula or rearrange a formula, the items in the formula needs to be rearranged. So clearly, if we started out with a as the subject, when we talk about rearranging the formula, we're talking about making another letter the subject, which means that this letter will now be standing on its own. Importantly, the knowledge of solving equations and inverse operations will be quite useful to doing this and to learn about. We know inverse of operation. We talk about them all the time. For example, the inverse of addition is subtraction, multiplication is division, and so on. Now, the subject of a formula. You need to make sure you have your pen ready to write this down. So to rearrange a formula, here are the steps that we need to follow. Step 1, write the formula and identify the variable that is to be the new subject of the formula. So you will always be told what variable you should make the subject. So you're going to identify that new variable that you want to be the subject of the formula. Step 2, write out all the operations in the formula and also their inverse. It's a beautiful way to make that clear, logical thoughts into the steps that you're going to need to take in order to make that new variable the subject. Step 3, we're going to now undo each step by doing the inverse of each operation. We always start with the last operation and then work backwards to the first operation that was done. Now for each step, we ensure that the inverse, very important note here, the inverse has to be applied to both sides of the formula to keep that balance. Very good. Step 4, when the new subject is isolated, which means now it is clearly on its own, the rearranging process is complete. So I'm not done until the letter that I want, or the variable that I want to be on its own, is on its own. And then all I need to do is to write the new subject equal to the rearranged formula. So make sure you write all these steps down, and then we are going to follow them in a series of examples. So let's go to our first two examples. Now, a question here for you. You could put your answer in the comment section. We're given for the first one, we're asked to rearrange the following to make x the subject of this formula. It says y equal 2x plus 5. What type of function is y equal 2x plus 5, having done the lesson on Introduction to Functions? Let's see if you'll be able to put that in the comment section. So we are looking at this here. We can see first of all that y is the subject of this equation because it's on its own on one side of the equal sign. So in our steps we talked about identifying the variable that we want to be the new subject of the formula. So we want x to be the subject of the formula. So what we need to do now, having identified that, is to write down the operations that are currently in the question. So of course, you know, I love to write what I have and what I need to do. So I'm going to write down the operations in the question and their opposites I need to do. So let's go. So I'm going to rewrite y equal 2x plus 5 in my working space. And then I'm going to write what I have in the question and what I'm going to need to do to solve. So I can see here, first of all, I have a plus 5. So plus 5, I now need to write the inverse of that. I'm going to need to do a minus 5. Also, I can see my variable here, which I want to make the subject, is being multiplied by 2. So I've got a multiplication by 2. I'm going to need to do a division by 2. Remember, step 3 says that we are going to need to start reversing them from what was done last. So plus 5 was done last. I need to take care of that first. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5 from both sides. So plus 5, inverse of that is minus 5. So I need to subtract 5 from both sides. So I'm going to tidy this up. This is now y minus 5 on my left hand side. If I subtract 5 from here, I now have only 2x left. I'm going to tick that off. I've completed my first operation and doing the inverse of it. Now I need to do division by 2, and remember we do that to both sides of our equation. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2. So this side we will have y minus 5 divided by 2, 2x divided by 2, 2's cancel out, leaving us with x. Now x is our subject of the formula. We can see that x is on its own, and also we can rewrite it, putting x on the left hand side. So I'm just going to rewrite it. X is equal to y minus 5 divided by 2, or y minus 5 halves. Beautiful. Now I can see x is on its own. It is now the subject of the formula. Absolutely brilliant. We move on to our second example, where we are asked to rearrange the following equation also to make x the subject. So again, I'm going to rewrite my equation, y equal to x halves minus 3. I'm going to write what I have in the question and what I need to do. So operations that we've got is minus 3. I'm going to need to add 3. I also have a division by 2. So I'm going to need to multiply by 2. So I'm going to take care of my minus 3 first. So what I need to do is to add 3 to both sides of my equation. Tidying this up, I get y add 3 on the left hand side Minus 3 plus 3 cancels out. So on the right hand side, we only have x divided by 2. So I'm going to check that off. I've done my plus 3. Now I need to go to multiplying by 2. So I need to multiply both sides by 2. Importantly here, because on the left hand side I've got an expression y plus 3, both of those terms must be multiplied by 2. So the best course of action here is to put my 2 on the outside of a bracket, indicating I need to expand this bracket in order to get the final answer. And also to multiply this side by 2, 2's will cancel each other out, so this side will only have x. Now I need to expand the bracket, again referring back to my previous video on expanding binomials. You can look at expanding single, double, triple brackets from those videos as well. So I've got 2 times y is 2y, and 2 times by 3 is positive 6 there. So my answer then, which I'm going to rewrite with my x term on the left hand side, x is equal to 2y plus 6. Absolutely brilliant. So now I have rearranged this equation, making x the subject, and again that simply means x is on its own on one side of the equal sign. Now you may ask, did I have to expand the bracket? No, you didn't, but I love to expand my bracket also to show my examiner I know what my answer would be if I have expanded the brackets. Absolutely brilliant. So we go to another 2 examples. We're asked to rearrange the following equation to make b the subject. We're given a is equal to b plus 5 all in bracket squared. Why is that important? Because it will direct the path I take when I'm going to do my inverse operations. Brilliant. So again, rewriting, I've got a equal to b in bracket plus 5, and that is all squared. So I can write what I've got in the question, what I have, and what I need to do. So in the question, I have a square. I'm going to need to do a square root. The opposite of square is square root. So I just write SQ for square and SQ root for square root. And if I look a little bit closer, I also have a plus 5. So somewhere along, I'm going to need to subtract 5 also. So the question becomes, which one do I do first? Now, the last operation that was done is squaring. So I have to do my square root first. So I need to do the square root of both sides. Now, a square root removes a square. So that's when I will now have access to my plus 5 to manipulate. So let's go. I'm going to square both sides. Square root both sides, big square root over this one. So on the left hand side, I've got root a. And remember, the square root removes the square. So now on the right hand side, I will now have b add 5. So take that off. I've done my square root. So now I need to take care of my constant, which is plus 5. I need to subtract 5 from both sides. So to tidy this off, I got root a minus 5 equal to b plus 5 minus 5. A positive 5 and a negative 5 cancels out to 0. So this side I only will have b left. So now b is my subject. What am I now going to do? I'm going to rewrite it on the left hand side. And then if you notice here, the a, root a minus 5, the minus 5 is not in the root at all. So it's root a, take away 5. So b equal root a minus 5. B is now the subject of my equation. You can see the complexity and the context of the questions also are changing by questions. So we go to rearrange the following equation to make x the subject. We're given here y equal p plus the square root of r divided by x. Total different context here. Principles, however, remain the same. So first of all, I'm going to rewrite. I've got y equal to p plus root r divided by x. Again, I'm going to identify the letter I want to make the subject. So I want x to be the subject, but at the moment, x is locked into the square root in that fraction. So again, let's write what we've got and what we need to do. So I have here, notice it's a positive p. So I have a plus p. I'm going to need to do a minus p. Also, I've got a square root. So this time I'm going to write sqrt. So I've got a square root. The opposite of that is to square. I'll just write that all the way out this time. So this time, because x is inside of the root, I have got to take care of my constant p first. So we could have easily written root r divided by x plus p. We could have changed it around. However, it's very important for you to be able to identify that this p, even though it's at the front of the equation, is still a positive and must be dealt with first. So we go ahead, we're going to subtract p from both sides. So to tidy this up, I have y minus p, and that's equal to, so p cancel with minus p here, so we're just left with the square root of r divided by x. Very much closer to getting x on its own. So I'm going to check that off. My next thing to do, in order to get access now to the x, I need to do the square of both sides. So let's go. I'm going to do square both sides. And remember, a square removes a square root. So I've got y minus p, put that in bracket, squared, equal to, I now have just r divided by x. Brilliant. So I now need to recognize that I'm dividing by x. I'm just going to add that here. So I've got a division by x. I'm going to need to multiply by x. So multiplying both sides by x, I'm just going to bring x to the other side as multiplication, which means I need to put that outside of my bracket to show that x should be used to multiply both y minus p, and that's being squared. So now this is equal to r. Brilliant. We're not there yet. One last step to go. Now I'm multiplying x by y minus p squared. So what I need to do now is to divide. If you notice, so we're multiplying by y minus p squared. A little bit tacky there. So we need to divide by y minus p squared in brackets. So just go ahead, do y minus p squared, and we're going to do that on the other side as well, y minus p squared. So now that cancels out, leaving me with my x. So the final answer here is x is equal to r divided by y minus p, and that is all squared. So if you notice here, as we went along, we saw other operations that we would have needed to do, but we didn't have access to doing that because the other letters were within the square root. So as soon as we remove that, we can now see other steps that we need to take. So it's very important to know how to do the easier questions about just manipulating operations. And then once we get to that breakthrough, we will see our direction that we need to take for the other letters or variables very clearly. At the end of the day, what we need to happen is that our variable that we started out with should be on its own. Absolutely fantastic. I would say if you need to go back through these two questions, pause the video, try them on your own, go back through it as many times as it takes. But clear logical thought will get you to the correct destination. So we go to our final two questions, and then we're going to do our key takeaway. So the first one asks us to rearrange the following equation to make n the subject. So we've got m equal the square root of 4n divided by 3. So again, rewriting the question, m is equal to root 4n thirds. And we're going to write what we have, what we need to do. So in the question, we have a square root. So we're going to need to square. And then let's do that first, and then we write the other operations. So we need to do the square of both sides. So I'm going to put this in bracket squared, and also do m squared. So left hand side is m squared equal to, we have now removed the square root, so we got 4n divided by 3. So our next step, we are dividing by 3. We need to multiply by 3. So 3 times m squared is 3m squared, and that's equal to 4n. So we now have a multiplication by 4. We need to divide by 4. So dividing both sides by 4, we now have 4n divided by 4 leaves us with just n. So I just cancel that out. So now n is the subject of the equation. So I'm just going to rewrite n is equal to 3m squared divided by 4. And so n is now the subject of our equation. And the final one is the most complex one in the examples I'm doing, but there are far more very complex ones which you will be able to see in other exam questions I'll put on TikTok. So last question and then key takeaways. Rearrange the following equation to make x the subject. What is the first thing you notice here? I hope you notice that this time there are 2 x's in the equation, although we're asked to make x the subject. So then, what do? We follow the same principles, but there's one other step we're going to need to take. So let's go. Rewriting y equal to 5x add 1 divided by 2x add 5. So first of all, we can see here we are dividing by 2x add 5. So we need to multiply by that. So I'm just going to bring that to the other side as a multiplication. And remember, because it's an expression, I need to put that. So I'm going to put y on the outside of my bracket. Y is going to be multiplied by both 2x plus 5. So that's now equal to 5x plus 1. If I move this 2x plus 5 to the other side as a multiplication. Now, because there are 2 of the variables involved that we want to make the subject, I need to expand this bracket and then collect my like terms. So we are going to now do y times by 2x, which is 2xy, and then y times by 5 is equal to 5y. That's now equal to 5x add 1. Now, because there are 2 x's involved, I need to put the x term together, which is called collecting the like terms. So I'm going to put 5x to this side, where it's now going to be a minus 5x. So let's do that first. So we've got 2xy minus 5x, very close to bringing the x together. And then I'm going to put the 5y, the positive 5y on the other side, which is now going to be a minus 5y. So it's going to be 1, which we had left here, minus 5y. So what we need to do now is to factorize. So we're going to take out the x term by factorizing. So x is common to 2xy and also to 5x. So x goes on the outside of my bracket. Now what times by x gives me 2xy, and that's 2y. So 2y times x gives me 2xy. And now what times by x gives me back 5x? That's 5. So that's what I get in bracket, equal to 1 minus 5y. So last step I need to do to get x on its own is to divide both sides by 2y minus 5, because that will cancel it out. So this now cancels out. I can see x is now on its own. So long process there. You can see this will be like a 4-5 marker question. So the watch. So I'm just going to rewrite this now. For the final answer is x equal to, on the right hand side I've got 1 minus 5y divided by 2y minus 5. Now x is the subject of this equation. Of course, you will need lots more practice on these type of questions. Thank you so much for staying this far in the video, and now it's time for our key takeaways. So at the beginning, we talked about the subject of the formula. We said it's the variable that is being worked out, and always we'll recognize it as a letter on its own on one side of the equal sign. And we cited an example where we said A is equal to B8, which is the formula for the area of a rectangle. We also talked about to change the order of the operation. So for example, if we wanted to rearrange a formula, we need to focus on the letter that we want to be worked out, and rearranging the formula means that we're making another variable the subject, and this relies heavily on our ability to complete solving equations where we're doing the inverse of operations. Make sure that you watch this video as many times as you need to. And also, guys, I've done this video specifically to prepare you for the last one in this series, which is finding the inverse of a function. So in order for you to find the inverse of a function, you have to make sure you watch this particular video, and this skill will be what you will now employ. Now remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and pop over to TikTok where you can find other questions, and also make use of your independent practice questions that you can find in the description of this video. What can I say? Thank you so much for watching.